Gabby, and today I'm going to be talking to you about getting started with React, a common front-end library used to build dynamic user interfaces. Sophia and I worked on this together, and she's going to be releasing a part 2 with a walkthrough demo that you should definitely check out after this video. So just to give you a bit more information about who we are, and I'll just introduce myself since Sophia's not here. I'm Gabby, and I'm a senior at Brown University studying computer science and art history. I'm an aspiring full-stack software engineer, and I really enjoy working on user interfaces. I've done 2 internships working in React, and would definitely consider it one of my favorite languages or libraries. So let's get into what is React. So React is an open source JavaScript library maintained by Facebook and a community of individuals and companies alike. JavaScript is what makes elements on a website move and update when you're interacting with it. So as apps get more complicated, recoding JavaScript gets more and more time consuming. So React comes with 2 appealing features, the JSX extension and the virtual DOM. We'll get into exactly what these are right now. Okay, so what is JSX? JSX is a React extension that makes it easy for web developers to modify their DOM by using simple HTML-style code. JSX allows us to create components, which are the building blocks of React. You can think of components as classes in other object-oriented languages. Components allow you to split your interface into reusable and independent pieces. We'll get into what independent means when we talk about the DOM. Each component takes in arbitrary inputs called props and returns a React element. So React provides support for both functional and class components. In industry, many companies use functional components because they're more simply written, and also because React is constantly updating functional components to improve upon class components. So this is a class component, and this is how it's written syntactically. It's very similar to Java. So you'll see that there's a constructor that takes in props, and you'll also see that there is a render function. So everything inside of this render function is what actually is going to show up on your user interface or front end. And you'll also see here that we can use div, which is from HTML, and that we can use this JavaScript syntax for including property or variable names dynamically. Functional components, on the other hand, are written a little more compactly. You won't have a render function, you won't have a constructor. You can just directly access props from the input parameter, and you can directly return the element that you want to return. So both types accept props and allow you to access them the same way, but React allows you to use JavaScript's ES6 syntax for arrow functions and object deconstruction. If you're not really familiar with that, you don't really need to be. You just need to understand what components are in order to get started. Beyond syntax, functional components and class components handle state very differently. So for the sake of learning, I'd recommend starting with class components to get a strong understanding of state updates and rendering, especially if you're familiar with object-oriented programming. So what is the DOM? So the DOM, or document object model, is like a tree that contains all of your website's content. Whenever you make a change using HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, the entire DOM reloads. While that's fine for a simple UI change, that gets pretty inefficient for most complex web apps. React's virtual DOM, like the name implies, is a copy of the site's DOM. And React uses this copy to see what parts of the actual DOM need to change when an event happens, like a user clicking a button. This way, React only re-renders the part of the page that changed, making for a much more efficient update process. React calls each of these independent parts of the page components, and they can be thought of as their own DOMs. So, how is React dynamic? I know I've been saying a lot that React allows you to make dynamic web pages, but what does that mean? So, props. What are props? Props are parameters that are passed down to components. Every component has its own props object. Props aren't mutable by components themselves and can only change for a component if the parent component changes them. Okay, that's confusing, but let's take a look at an example. So say we created a React component that displays the text, "Hi, my name is," insert name here. This component changes the name it displays by using the name passed down to it through props. As you can see, the parent component app.jsx initializes the name tag component with name equals Gabby. App tells name tag that its name prop is the string Gabby. The name tag component can use this prop to render our desired text with the name app passes down. However, the name tag component can't change this prop internally. It'll only change if app changes the name parameter to a different string. Okay, so what do we do if we want to change something internally in a component? For cases like this, we use state. If a component changes something in its own state, it will re-render. So let's say we wanted to create a component incrementer that increments a number every time a button is clicked. In this case, the component can keep track of and modify the current displayed value using React's setState function. What's really useful about state, though, is that it can be passed down to other components as a prop. Parent components, on the other hand, can't access the internal state of a child component. So TLDR, state is internally mutable. So as you can see here, this looks a little complex and you totally don't need to fully understand it right now, but we have this.state.number, which is a property that we put in our state object, and we have a function that sets the state of that number to be itself +1. And then we have this button triggering every time that this button is clicked, it'll call this increment function and update our state. And then lastly, we're having our current value being displayed using this.state.number. So this seems a little confusing, but I would recommend trying to run it yourself after I teach you how to make a React app, because it'll help you get an understanding of how React actually works. So overall, a render can be triggered by either a component's internal state change or if the props passed down to a component are changed. All right, last thing, let's create a React app. Now let's apply what you've learned to real code. So for the purposes of this tutorial, we'll be using yarn commands, but you're also welcome to use npm. npm and yarn are two well-known JavaScript package managers. Package managers are essentially what automates the process of installing, updating, configuring, and removing pieces of software or packages retrieved from a global registry. Yarn improves upon npm's shortcomings, but still uses the npm structure. Okay, so you'll need to have npm of version 5.2 or higher and Node of version 10 or higher installed in order to run this command. So to double check what that is, you can just do node -- version, npm -- version as well. Okay, so we're good on those fronts. If you also want to use yarn, you will need to install that ahead of time, but you can also use npm. So to easily create a React app, you can run the command npx create -react -app. And then after that space, you want to include whatever name you want to call it. So I'm going to call mine my app. This command is going to run for a little while. No worries at all. This is always what's going to happen. Create React app is an officially supported way to create single-page React applications. It offers a modern build setup with no configuration. But yeah, so mine just finished. So once it's finished, you can cd into the directory of the application you just created and try running yarn start or npm start if you're using npm. This starts your development server and allows you to see your changes immediately as you make them. It's kind of magical, and I don't fully understand how it works, and I don't think you need to either. So let's cd into my app. And you'll see here that you'll have all of these different things installed. Just make sure that you're in this directory when you run yarn start or npm start. So let's do yarn start. It'll hang for a bit, don't worry about it. All right, and you'll see here that my local development server has started up on localhost 3000. And anytime I make edits to the React app that I just created, it'll update here. All right, now that you have a baseline understanding of React, you can start making dynamic web apps with it. React is a lot of fun and makes front-end code easy to write and debug. I got more comfortable with it by working on as many projects as I could and by using it in my internships. I also learned a lot by Googling, Stack Overflowing, and Medium.coming. I definitely recommend playing around with it and making different apps. Definitely check out Sophia's walkthrough demo in part 2 to make a basic tic-tac-toe app. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe for more content like this. We post videos every Monday, and comment if you have any questions and we'll make sure to answer them. We'll see you next week. Bye.